What's up, guys? We're back with another video in our Kill Rationalism series. I miss you guys very much. I miss doing videos in this series. For whatever reason, either the parts of the ever-present origin or whatever else I've been doing hasn't quite been as much as hasn't been as quite as much rationalism material. So it's good to kind of come back to the series because this was the OG series that got me going, got me to a whole 200 subscribers. I love you guys. We're going to be talking about the false binary that is logic versus emotion. Complete nonsense, this idea that it's one or the other. And if you followed my more recent videos, you'll know that, well, let's just say it's not one or the other. It's layers upon layers, but I'm getting ahead of myself. First and foremost, you might hear that the audio is a little low or that my voice sounds a little raspy. I'm a little sick, unfortunately. I don't have enough energy to do a Gebster video, but I just enough to do this relatively short video about logic versus emotion. So remember, of course, if for whatever reason you watch this video in the series and not the other ones, I really, really recommend you watch at least watching the first two. You have to watch the first two videos in this series to really unlock the rest of the videos in this series. So if you're new to this channel, I love you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for giving me your time. I would love if you stuck around, but please go watch those two videos because they're very important. We can see the binary. Well, why are they important, Justin? Well, in the first video, you'll know we can see the binary here. One thing that is quantifiably measurable and consciously known against another in a dualistic sense, and then we invoke the third aspect of measuring thought to privilege one over the other or form a synthesis. So we have logic versus emotion. Logic versus emotion. It's not necessarily a bad thing to frame these in this way, in this dualistic, antithetical way, but as this video is going to argue, to do it exclusively is going to be a problem. So the real reason why logic versus emotion is a false binary, ultimately, is that both represent nodes in the network of relations that confer upon the significance, or I should say, both represent nodes in the network of relations that disclose the being or significance of a certain object or whatever, which is to say, both are present and efficacious at the point of experience. So unfortunately, we're going to have to do a very quick recap of the Heidegger stuff. If I'm not going to do it very long, I apologize if you've already heard this, but just skip 60 seconds. It's not going to be very long. The significance of any given object is not disclosed by rendering it static, putting it into the representation world in abstract conceptualization, and deducing its rational significance. It is disclosed through a network or a series of layers that inform the significance of any given object. For example, I mean, I use this one all the time, but classic. What is a woman, right? So, of course, rationally, a woman is an adult human female, and that would mean, well, she's constituted by a particular biological structure, framework, whatever you want to call it. She has breasts, she has the vulva, she can give birth, or at least has the potential to give birth, yada, yada, yada. Okay. But the problem is, that's not the only way. We clearly don't interact with women by just kind of blankly staring at them and just using them for nothing more than reproductive, some empty body to reproduce. Of course not. We love our women. We think women are awesome. So if I'm in the 1400s, let's say, and I give birth to a daughter, and she becomes a woman, it might be true that she is an adult human female at that time, but immediately upon her being born, I'm going to think, great, now some guy is going to have to give me a dowry, and I'm going to give my daughter away because that's what it means to be a woman in this society at this time. So it might be true in pure theory that a woman is an adult human female, but we're human beings embedded in a world multifariously constituted by the pre-rational, irrational, rational, and irrational, which is to say that we don't live in pure theory. So in the world, there's obviously a social role, as the example we've given just today. Now, of course, you can contrast that to today, where women, we don't have to do any of that. Woman can be whatever she wants. She's liberated. She's a boss bitch. She's a fighter against patriarchy, all this stuff. The point is, in this case, there are two different nodes in a network that disclose the significance of a woman. You'd have the rational node, and then in the example I use, the social node. And then, of course, you have other ones, right? You have historical. This is what it meant to be a woman for the longest time, and this is how it changed. We have legal, the legal node in the network. A woman is not just an adult human female, but someone who is entitled to certain rights, certain privileges, certain privileges of being a citizen of the United States. So my point is, to be a woman is multifaceted. It's multi-layered. There are multiple nodes in the network that disclose, when they combine, disclose the fullness so that a womanness of a woman is clear and perceivable. Hopefully that made sense. Please go watch my What is a Woman video, part 1 and 2, if you need some help with that. Another example, real quick, a mug, right? You walk in, a mug is, sure, it's a certain cup with a certain constitution, ceramic, it's this wide, this tall, yada, yada, great. But, of course, when I walk into the office and I see Michael Scott has a world's best boss mug and Andy Bernard gives Jim a whole bunch of crap because he's drinking from his mug, obviously there's an emotional, psychological layer of significance. It's not that the mug isn't a mug rationally. It's just also this emotional layer has been transposed on it. Now, you can say, again, for all the rationalists out there, again, you can, if you want, you can just stick with the abstract theory of a mug, but we are embedded in a world, and we have emotions, so there's value to seeing both. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So anytime you receive input of anything at the point of experience, you register it rationally and emotionally simultaneously. It's not one or the other, but both at once, which in the case of the high abstract Heidegger stuff, both nodes in the network of relations are active, and in turn, they integrate to confer or disclose the being of anything. So the rational layer of significance tells you what is and what must be/have been. So if I say my sister, who doesn't exist, was sexually assaulted in Detroit or something, that tells you what happened and what must have happened. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying I want that. But when I say that, you register that rationally as this event, this action that is, its definition can be measured, and we all know these things. That's what happened. But of course, if I were to tell you that, you would register that rationally and be like, that's what happened. But you would also say, oh my God, that's terrible. Is she okay? Is she alive? How are you feeling? That's awful. You would have an emotional reaction as well. So the rational layer tells you what is and what must have been. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I went on a run. And the emotional layer tells you what it means and how it touches our feelings, usually by weaving it into a narrative of meaning. So this isn't the way the world should be. So if I see, that's a good example. My sister gets sexually assaulted. I say that and you go, okay, we've registered rationally, but now we say this is terrible. This isn't the way the world should be. We should be fighting for justice, fighting for truth, all this stuff. So we have the rational layer and the emotional layer. They are both present. And we're just going to give a couple examples, and that's about it, because I think it really does just kind of open up. I only think you really need a couple of examples, and then you're good. So when you receive news that you won the lottery, right, the rational significance of that is that you are entitled to a lot of money, right? That's all that is rationally. All that signifies is what must be or have been. I won the lottery. There's a lottery that happens. Here's the competition. Here's how it works. I won. That means, at least in theory, I am entitled to the lottery. Now, imagine if I came up to you and I told you this news and said, hey, viewer, good news. Were you struggling to pay your bills this month? Well, you just won $400 million. Yeah, sure, government's probably going to take 50% of that, but you're taking home a cool $200 million. I think you're going to be okay. Do you think for 1 second you would just stare there blankly and just go, I am entitled to $200 million, like some fucking robot? No, of course, you would be like, if you're a normal person, or like me, you would be ecstatic. You would throw your hands up, you would start screaming, you would start kissing random people, you would just be so overjoyed. I would be going crazy. I'd probably be running around the nude, swirling my t-shirt around. You're not sitting there passively receiving just the rational significance, but there's clearly also an emotional layer as well. Now, here's the key. So my emotional response to this news, it doesn't make the rational significance go away. It's kind of like saying if we're on a... oh, my oven went off. If we're driving towards, like we're about to go off a cliff, right? And I say that, hey, I want to live. You're driving me off a cliff. Don't do that. And let's say for whatever reason, when you hear me say that, you respond with, Justin, you're always trying to boss me around. You're always trying to tell me to do this, that, and that. We're not going to drive off the cliff. And sure enough, what happens? We drive off the cliff and we die. So that the emotional layer of significance and the rational layer of significance are co-present does not mean they negate each other. And that's the key difference here with rationalism. With rationalism, you have one or the other. What we're saying is, no, both are present and both are efficacious. So in the same vein with the lottery, right, if you hear news that your mother has died, you rationally register it. But again, you're not going to just stare there blankly and just go, my mother has died. That's it. No. if you're like me, you're going to be distraught. You're going to be experiencing extreme sorrow. You're going to be crying. You're going to be whining. You're going to be doing all this stuff. So as I receive the news, both nodes, boom, are active and present, and they both inform my response to this input. It's not one or the other, but both. But you can apply this to literally anything. It's kind of like the objective-subjective binary. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because framing it in the dualistic way can help confer clarity, order, and depth on what we're talking about here. But literally every single human interaction or experience, both are present and efficacious. There has not been a single, since the beginning of the magic structure, there has not been a single, at least not that I can tell of, unless you're in a coma or something, a single instance where the objective and subjective principles aren't present in human interaction, in human experience. They're all there. Even just going out and seeing the tree, I mean, the tree is objective and my accounting of it is subjective, but they're both there. So it's the same thing. You can apply this to literally like anything. It's really not one or the other. It's both. Now, of course, unfortunately, there's a political element to this. This isn't going to be some partisan screed or anything like that. But we could see very clearly how the debate, if you want to call it that, between the right and the left of logic versus feelings is a false debate. It is a false starter. It is a non-starter. It's just nonsense. So the right, of course, privileges logic. We all know the famous Ben Shapiro phrase, facts don't care about your feelings, and they signal and prove how rational and how measured and how sensible and how connected to reality they are. And they're so much better than the left, these emotional. They just deny reality based on emotion. Ridiculous. Look at me. I like logic. Screw your feelings. I don't care less about your feelings. If it's true, it's true. If you have an emotional reaction to the truth that's bad, that's your problem, not mine. That's what the right says. And then, of course, the left goes the other way, where they privilege emotion over rationality, and they signal to everyone how virtuous they are, how empathetic they are, how sensitive they are, how they humanize people. Oh, yeah, you can have all your truth in the world, but I'm actually going to treat people like human beings, and I'm going to be respectful, and I'm going to try to increase their quality of life. And if your little conception of truth gets in the way of that, then screw you. I'm going to die as a human rather than live as a machine. Something like that, right? Both have glimpsed a half of the whole and have taken that half for the whole. Both have glimpsed the part for the whole. And, of course, with the rationalist right, it would be sectoring or dividing the rational node or the rational part and pretending the part is the whole. And then, of course, with the irrational left, we have sectoring the irrational part from the whole and treating that part as if it is the whole. The right doesn't meet women, like we talked about earlier, where they are as humans, while the left distorts reality through emotional dogmatism. The right is too cold, and the left is way, 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 way too warm. Another just quick political examples. I've used this in another video, but Charlie Kirk, that's a perfect example. When he was assassinated, whatever you feel about that, okay, I'm not here to change your mind on that. I don't really care, frankly. But as a matter of fact, what you did not see when that happened was a bunch of right-wingers just staring there blankly. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. That happened in reality. It has been registered in my mind. No. You saw a response to that. You saw a legal response. You saw these dumb September 10th is Charlie Kirk Day Memoriam, and this is the Charlie Kirk Hall and all this stuff. There should have been a greater political response to that, by the way, but that's a discussion for another day. You saw a cultural response where people started saying, well, this is what the left does, this has gone too far. You saw mythic responses insofar as the right were saying this is just another instance of the left destroying civilization and destroying beauty and destroying truth and destroying Christianity and all this stuff. You saw a spiritual response as well, insofar as you saw, at least maybe for a week or two, some degree of uptick in church. That probably went away. But nonetheless, the point is, everything I just mentioned function as nodes in that network of relations that we've been talking about. So don't tell me when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, it was logic versus feelings, because it was very clearly both. And then, of course, you can do this with the left, too. When Trump was elected in 2016, they didn't just sit there and passively register that Trump was elected. They started freaking the hell out. We've all seen those videos. Remember that one girl? No! And they all started having this emotional freak out, and then they had a mythical response, and this is the right, this is the rise of fascism, this is the rise of hatred and bigotry, this is the destruction of America, this is Putin's chess piece or a pawn. What was the word? Someone who's colluding with Putin. You also saw legal responses. I'm not trying to make this a partisan screed, but let's just say the Democrats tried to fight back legally or extra constitutionally against Trump. You saw cultural responses. Artists started making political art, anti-Trump art. Again, the point is these are all nodes in the network of relations. So when Trump was elected, it wasn't just logic versus feelings. It was very clearly both. And then, of course, you do the same thing with Biden and then the same thing with Trump again. And there you go. So anytime someone tries to tell you it's logic versus feelings and that's all there is, and the only thing that matters is logic, or the only thing that matters is emotion, they are both wrong. They are both rationalist or irrationalist, and they have failed. It is absolutely absurd, and we need to stop doing this because it really is killing us. It's just growing this divide that just doesn't need to be there. The right needs to be way more empathetic and way more... They need to cater to people's emotions and their soul a little more, and it's... I don't know. They're just so individualist, and they're so rigid. And the left just needs to acknowledge some basic truths that might, unfortunately, undermine their little mythology that they've created of social justice and all this stuff. But it's pretty bad. So I think that should be all. Let me know if you guys thought this video was interesting. And I will see you soon. I should have a couple of videos coming out for you guys. I got one on Lady Melisandre and myth. That's going to be very good. And I've created like a little mini myth and symbolism that I think can explain Gebser and Heidegger too. So that should be fun as well. And some other mythological subjects as well, like the Hydra myth. I plan on doing a video about that. Besides that, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I love you. I'll see you.